We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vellet. Hey man, we have a really great discount happening right now for our Foundations of Masculinity course. It's a buy one, get one free. So you can take our 12-week course on growing as a man, strengthening yourself, building confidence, and you can do it with a friend. So we want to offer this to you. You can go to braveco.org to register today. Now on to this week's episode. I'm here with my guest this week, Hunter McWaters. Hunter, thanks so much for coming on. You are an incredible man. You host the Hunter's Quest podcast, as well as you spend a ton of time out in the woods, filming hunts and chasing animals and doing all the things that really I wish I could do. So in some ways, I'm going to live vicariously through you.
No, that's okay, man. I'm blessed. What can I say?
You are blessed. And I'm excited to talk about some of your hunting adventures and about hunting and all that. But before we do that, I kind of want to hear a little bit about where you grew up, what life was like. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I really am blessed, man. I mean, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, but we moved to Virginia when I was, I think, about 4. So I really grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, kind of a beach town. But it was kind of like all the kids were surfers and stuff, and I tried surfing, but I just never really felt like a beach kid. Like it just wasn't. I just never felt like I was one of them. I was kind of a country boy at heart. And my dad started me out hunting when I was, before I could read. I think I was in a dove field with him like 6 years old or something with a BB gun. And I think I got my first shotgun when I was like 8, and he had me out duck hunting. And then, had, great parents, they're still together. I have tons of respect for my dad. I mean, he's a great guy. Everybody's got flaws, but he's a great guy. And, raised in the church and raised hunting. And then around 14, we got permission through a guy at church to deer hunt on his farm. It was a 700-acre farm in Eastville, Virginia, which is on the eastern shore, the southern tip of the Delmarva Peninsula. And just amazing deer hunting. And I just fell in love with bow hunting.
Did you ever hunt before that, like on public land, just trying to chase deer around?
Yeah, a little. I think my dad took me out to Kentucky where he grew up bow hunting, to kind of like a little camping trip kind of thing. That was my first bow hunting experience. But yeah, that was public land in the LBL, they call it, the land between the lakes in Western Kentucky. But I didn't see a deer, like one deer the whole time.
Bro, it sounds like how
but
I
then
grew
when
up.
but then when I got this permission, I remember the first time I ever sat in a tree stand out there, I literally watched 14 deer come out in this little field, and I just watched. They're out of range, but I was able to watch them. Had no idea I was there for hours, and it was just like, this is it. This is like, I just fell in love. It was amazing.
That's rad.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was
Okay,
cool.
keep going.
So that about 14, I fell in love with bow hunting. While most kids were out, on the weekends partying and stuff, I was spending most weekends like out, driving across the Chesapeake Bay and hunting all weekend. And I remember like driving to my homecoming football game in high school. I was playing football, but I remember falling asleep at a red light because I was like coming back from hunting to go. So that's what my priorities were, man. I mean, I was in class. I was sitting there drawing pictures of deer and like drawing maps and figuring out which wind directions would be best for each tree stand. Like that, I was just obsessed. That's kind of my personality, I tend to get obsessed with things, and usually I move on, but there's a few things, really my faith and hunting, that have been consistent my whole life. So I'm blessed to be still a part of it. So that's kind of quickly how I grew up, and you know, the road got a little rocky from there, but here we are.
I'd love to dive into that a little bit because you had seems like a fairly good upbringing. But I know just from your story that you eventually ended up in an addiction,
Hmm.
drug addiction and obesity. Can you talk just a little bit about, like, take us through how that happened and
Yeah.
how did you veer so far off the path?
Yeah, man. So I don't have any good excuse. Like, oh, I was, there's no, like, I had a great home, and, my
I-
family
If you're
does.
if you're gonna have a drug addiction, you should have a really good excuse.
Yeah. My excuse was I just really like getting high. No, but seriously, but yeah, I had a great upbringing. I do believe, well, it is in my family. We do have a proclivity, I think, towards addiction. I have several grandparents that were, alcoholics, and several of them recover. My grandmother recovered, and she was sober for many years.
Mm.
Amazing lady. Um, but I have uncles that are still dealing with addiction and stuff like that. So we kind of have I believe, a proclivity towards that. Um, so it wasn't, it was, as with a lot of addictions, it wasn't like, you know, off to the races one day. It was, once the enemy kind of gets his foot in the door, it's a slow creep. I think, if you start shooting IV drugs, like, the first thing you do, I mean, it's gonna be very obvious that you have a problem very quick. And
Yeah,
then you can address that problem, or at least, it's very insidious in that it creeps in slowly, and it's a slow crescendo until one day you wake up and you're just like, you're
yeah.
past the point of being able to help yourself. So, I kind of got my heart broken a little bit in college, or in high school, by a girl, and started drinking and experimenting, and but right away, it was clear that I wasn't the kind of person that could have a few drinks and, like, have a little buzz and be like, I was like the guy at the party who was like the most drunk, like the idiot, like, what
Yeah.
is that guy doing? You know what I mean? I was always taking it to the extreme. And then, in college, and I started dabbling with marijuana, got into a band, kind of got into that whole, like, jam band type scene, hippie kind of thing. And same thing. When I started smoking weed, it was like all day, every day from that point on,
Were
very quickly.
you still hunting during this time?
I was, but it was like, it was it was lame excuse for hunting. Like, I would manage to drag myself into a tree stand, like, hungover, and I'd be smoking weed in the stand, and, like, I was still, like, doing it, but not at it.
Yeah.
I remember one time, like, I drove all the way out. And this is public land in, Southwest Virginia in the mountains, and I drove all the way out there, and it was dark, and I realized I don't have any boots, so I had to, like, cross this river barefoot and then hunt in my, like, house shoes because I didn't have any boots. But anyway, so yeah, to answer your question, I still was hunting, but not as much, not as serious. It was kind
Yeah.
of on the back burner. And then, like I said, it just creeped up. And then, one day somebody said, "Hey, try these pills," and it was kind of a low level opioid. Started messing with those, and then again, it was like, a lot. And then after college, I was still kind of in the music scene, and somebody introduced me to OxyContin, and I didn't really know fully what I was getting myself into. And then that stuff, you mix my already addictive personality with, now you have a drug that, you become very quickly physically and mentally dependent on, where you get
Mm.
physically ill if you don't have it. And as people, probably know and have heard, that's very difficult to deal with. And then I'm kind of simplifying, but it progressed from there to fentanyl. And I was, at the end, I think my last month, I figured out how to, get on the dark web and order drugs on the internet. I hope I don't. I guess it's okay to say
Bro,
this. Uh,
no way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, at that point, it's like, before, you kind of, like, you're having to deal with people and chase it down, and sometimes you get ripped off or you can't find it or whatever. Like, this stuff was now showing up in my mailbox consistently, you know, and I just went nuts, and I was on other stuff at the same time, other prescription medications. I was still smoking weed. I was still drinking. I was doing enough drugs to kill like 3 water buffalo every day.
So
And
let's
yeah, it
talk
was bad.
about the dark web for just a sec. And I know that
Okay.
it's probably like a rabbit trail, but gosh, some
It's
trails are
okay.
worth going down. The dark web for
Yeah.
me is something that I see on CSI,
Okay.
or like
It's a real thing.
yeah, explain it to me.
Okay, so the thing is, I saw a movie about this kid who like did it, and I was like, I wonder if that's real. So I just started looking into it, and I mean, it's amazing the lengths that a person will go to when you really want to do something bad, like so it's crazy. You have to get a certain type of browser that like encrypts your IP address, and then you have to download some other thing, and then you have to like basically buy Bitcoin and then transfer that into this like basically illegal eBay where you can buy anything. I don't want to like give too much information. I don't want to inspire anybody here, but um but it's crazy, man. Yeah, and then you just it's pretty complicated, but you could obviously I figured it out, and then yeah, you just like people have rating systems just like an eBay, and you just send them your Bitcoin and it shows up in your mailbox.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So there's
And
whole
I think I
sites.
blew through thousands of dollars of liquid fentanyl in my last month of using, like
Oh my
like
gosh.
over $10,000. I sold this like sick motorcycle I had and just gone. Yeah.
Wow. Man, if you've listened, I just want to give our followers, our listeners, I should say, a little tip. If you find yourself on the dark web, you've gone the wrong
Turn
way.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. For sure.
Stop. Don't pass go. Don't collect 200. Turn
Yeah.
around. Come back. You've
And because it's not like you can accidentally end up there. It's like you've put in effort to research and do
right.
work to get there. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. So you find yourself in the middle of this like full blown, like no denying, full
Mm.
blown drug addiction. You've got to be at some point going, what is happening with me?
Yeah. It's so insidious the way it works, the way addiction is, like, because at each step you're able to justify what you're doing, somehow. I mean, I remember I'd be doing stuff. I remember, oh God, I guess it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I was
Do it.
doing,
Yeah, do it. Whatever you want to say. You're great.
I was working at the Christian Broadcasting Network. I was a producer for the 700 Club, and I was doing lines of Oxy off my desk.
Oh my gosh, bro.
I'm being so open right now. I hope this doesn't bite me, but I think it's okay. But
No, you're great. I mean, it might bite you,
yeah,
but no, this is perfect.
who cares? Whatever. I'd be standing up there doing stuff and just like nodding out. And I remember like whole days where I wouldn't even know what I did that whole day. Cause I'd be like, I'd run out and I'd like get Xanax or something and just like black out. Like and my wife would be like, what'd you do today? And I'd be like, I like didn't know what to say. Didn't remember what I did the entire day.
Wait, bro, you were married during all this?
Dude, I had a child at the end of it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
It's so bad.
Back up a tiny bit. When did you tell us about when you got married? Like,
okay, that's what I was saying. I was kind of simplifying stuff.
Yeah, you made it way simple.
Yeah. So, okay, after the first time I really got hooked on the Oxy, I did get to a point where I realized like I have no soul. I am literally like a shell, like I'm dead inside. And I did actually I feel like I got saved like again. I got saved as a child, but I like really cried out to God and kind of got saved again. I told my family the issues I was going. Like my grandmother helped me out. I even went to AA meetings with my grandma. She was so cool. And yeah. And so I got clean-ish, right? So I got clean, like I detoxed myself like a month of straight hell, like flu symptoms with the worst depression and anxiety you can imagine. And like you're trying to sleep and it feels like the inside of your bones are itching.
Oh,
like diarrhea, like just awful for a month. But I didn't completely. I was still smoking weed to like help me basically physically
yeah,
cope with these symptoms,
for sure.
and then I was also still on a prescription ADHD medication, which I don't want to go down a rabbit trail there, but like me personally, I warn people, don't take that stuff. I don't care
Right.
how ADD you think you are. And that's a whole other thing. I don't want to say like whatever, but just me personally, I don't think they're
That's
good.
that's a little BraveCo pro tip for you. ADHD, you maybe want to just check yourself before you start on the meds. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, just maybe God made you that way for a reason.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, I got clean-ish, right? And I did have like a transformation, spiritual kind of rebirth, but I still wasn't like, I still had one foot in the door. During that time, I was a cameraman, a videographer for the 700 Club, CBN, and I just looking back, like they must have just, I don't know, like we'd be on these road trips, and like we would stop for gas, and I would like sneak off behind the gas station, like smoke a cigarette, and like get back in the car. Like they must have known, just been like, this
Yeah,
guy is a
bro.
complete idiot. Like, and like I would get, I'd be drinking and just crazy stuff, man. And but anyway, I met my wife during this time, my now wife, and was able to hide it from her. Um, Almost got caught ish a few times.
Wait,
But
so
yeah, then
so you're dating,
yeah,
you're dating and you're smoking cigarettes and smoking weed and drinking and she
and
doesn't know?
taking ADHD medication. Um, e- she had some inclinations. She didn't know the extent. She didn't know about the weed. She knew I drank, obviously, but didn't like it.
What'd you guys
But I
date
was
for 2 weeks or what?
basically, yeah.
And then got
We
married?
we were married 6 months after we met.
Mm.
Like it was like boom. Um,
There's another BraveCo pro tip for you guys. We haven't never pulled out these BraveCo pro tips. I've been waiting, but here you go.
yeah.
Don't get married in 6 months.
Just basically don't do anything I did before like 2 years ago. Or no, like 6 years ago.
6
But
years,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah,
So
bad
you
stuff.
date for
But
6 months, you get married,
mhm.
you've got a full-blown addiction.
Yeah, then so because I still had one foot in the door, I didn't completely cut it off. It just slowly came back and just progressed again. Um, to the point where I was worse than I was before. That's when the whole dark net thing came in because I couldn't be running around chasing around drug dealers, like she would
No.
find out. Um, so yeah, that's when that all started, and that's when it got really worse. And then it came to a head again. I mean, my body literally started shutting down. I had to get my appendix removed. I had to get my gallbladder removed, like all in the same year. Um,
Gosh.
like I was just like shutting down, and it came to a point. I think I sort of got caught, like it came down to money. I was blowing through all my money, and she's like, "Where's all your money going?" And then combination of some other things, I had to basically come clean, and I knew I needed help too. And then at that point, she kind of found out, and she took my infant son and like left, and was like, "You got to get clean or like we're gone." And that's when I was like, yeah. And I went and told my dad what was going on, and he helped me get checked into rehab, and I had to go away for 30 days. So that
So
time, yeah.
what rehab did you go to? I'm curious.
It's called the Farley Center in Williamsburg, Virginia. Did a
And
great
how was
job.
that?
It was so I went one time for a week and detox, and then I was like, I gotta go, and they're like, don't go, you're gonna use again. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine. I went, I used again. So I think it was a couple months later I had to go back, and then I was there then I was like, okay, whatever, I'm surrendering to this process. I went for the full 30 days. And they medically detox you, so the physical withdrawal was not quite as bad. It was still bad, but not quite as bad as just cold turkey like I did the first time.
Yep.
Um, and
And bro, at that point, I mean, when you're snorting oxy, like you could die just cold turkey going off stuff. It's not even
yeah,
that safe to cold turkey if you're
it's
sometimes.
not. Yeah, I mean, they say you cannot die from opioid withdrawal. You
Okay.
can die from alcohol withdrawal.
Okay.
you can definitely die from alcohol withdrawal.
Ooh,
But they say you can't die from opioid withdrawal, but it's
you're
still
get,
terrible.
you're gonna want to die.
Yeah, you will for sure.
So, okay,
Um,
just catch us up a little bit. I'm curious. I know I keep interrupting you, but
no, you're good.
I'm curious about your wife and like take us through. You get clean off of at least you do these 30 days. How the heck do you come to the point where your wife trusts you again, where she wants the marriage? I mean, I wish I had your
Yeah,
wife here, and I wish we had 3 hours because this would get a whole
we
lot
could
more
do another one
interesting.
sometime.
Yeah, we probably
Yeah,
should.
we should. It would be really interesting to hear it from her point of view. But all I can say is there's a very long road. It was not quick. It was just day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, and eventually just slowly, I mean, when I first got out there checking my, I don't have any cash. I'm not allowed to have any cash. They're checking my card bank statements constantly. Um, she drug tested me several times. Um, and just slowly over time and just seeing me start to live right. Um, and that at that point, that's when I got really, really fat too, because I just started eating everything in sight. Um, but yeah, as far as that, I mean, to be honest, we're still dealing with it a little bit. I mean, I would
Yeah,
say some of the damage I did is still not completely healed, to be honest.
yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, some stuff is just
It's a
yeah.
process
Mm,
for sure.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and why I love this story, obviously, for lots of different reasons, but um, one, you don't hear a lot of we don't hear enough testimonies of guys coming through it, coming through the other side, especially being married, and in a lot of men who listen to this and women who listen to this are struggling with some sort of addiction, right? And
Yeah.
so it's just real. I mean, it really is as much shame or guilt or embarrassment, as we have about the things that we've been through and the stupid decisions that we make. Like people are really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
These are real issues that we really face. And one of the questions I get so much, I mean, just today I was dealing with it. I was on a counseling call for a couple who he had slept with several girls before
Oof.
during their marriage and before their marriage
Wow.
while they were dating. And but we get caught, right? We get stuck in these places in our life where we're living outside of our character, outside of what is healthy, outside of how we want to live. And the
Mm-hmm.
road to recovery is real. Like there's a real um I'll say like process to coming out of your old self. It's not just like, because a lot of people want to go, I get saved, I ask Jesus in my heart or whatever, and I give all my stuff to him, and then I end up completely transformed. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't quite work that way.
For sure. And you reminded me of something cool actually that is apropos. Like, um, I've heard of testimonies of people who are like, oh, instantly healed, delivered of addiction and stuff like that. And maybe it happens, probably does. I don't know. But um, I remember one time, like, asking the Lord too. Like, I was like, God, like, why, um, you know, why is this taking so long? Like, why is this so slow? And even also, I was like, because I grew up in a I grew up Baptist, right? And a big part of my transformation, which we haven't really touched on, was learning about who God really was, not
Mm,
who the God I was taught as a child is. Not that it was wrong per se, like being
yeah.
Baptist or whatever, but there's more there that I wasn't taught about, and I was like, um, and I remember like I actually, now that I think about it, I was like asking God, like, why won't you like actually, I think I just was listening to your dad's book, and I was like, why won't you just like smash me with some like spiritual thing, or like just baptize me in the spirit, and like just I'm just some crazy experience. And God was like, he said, not audibly, but he said in my spirit, he's like, um, I'm not doing that, but you've been slowly being baptized in the spirit, like slow immersion for like the past 2 years. It's not like an instant thing. 'Cause he's like, if you had some crazy experience like that, because of your personality, you would just want that. And you'd like almost like that'd be a new addiction you'd be like striving for all the time.
Yep.
And he's like, that's not what I'm going to do with you. Like, you're getting a slow dunk for like years, and you just got to be consistent and work and work and work. And at
And you
the
know,
end, I think it's more real that way.
yeah,
Maybe.
the other side to this whole piece is when when you change, but you have no idea how. You have very, very, very little confidence that you're
Yeah.
never going to go back again because you don't actually understand the process.
Right. You have no
And
foundation built.
none. And the thing about God is God God's not worried about our comfort. His first concern isn't our comfort. That's why he
Yeah.
gives us a comforter, right? Something to comfort us in our discomfort. But he loves the process. He loves to do the James 1, right? Consider it pure joy when you encounter various trials, for the
Mm-hmm.
testing of your faith produces perseverance. When perseverance runs its course, you'll lack nothing. His goal is to take us through this
100%.
process to a place where we learn trust, we learn perseverance, we learn faith, we learn,
Yeah.
character building. We learn all these things, and you can't shortcut that stuff.
Yeah. It's just like fitness, man. Like, if you just like go in and get a liposuction and you walk out of the doctor with a six pack, you're going to have a beer gut again in 3 months, guaranteed. But if you learn how to go to the gym every day and to eat right, and then maybe it takes 2 years,
Yep.
you're going to stay that way probably, you know?
Listen, I already know we're going to do a part 2 to this. So I don't want to just
Nice.
speed ahead and get to, because I want to talk about your journey, where you're at now, the hunting, all that stuff. So we may
Sure.
even just have to cover that on the next one because of time constraint.
It's fine.
And I really just want to dive in here a little bit more. You came to a place where you're owning your journey. Are you going to counseling at this point?
No. Do you mean marriage counseling or individual?
When you started to get off drugs, were you going to individual counseling?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Out
I
of
have gone to
rehab?
counseling. Yes, I have gone to counseling before. Out of rehab, I did something called IOP, which is intensive outpatient.
Outpatient?
Yeah. So that was basically like, I think it was like 3 nights a week or something. I would go and like have a group session for like 3 hours. And then transitioned into just doing AA and A meetings. I've kind of, I'm not doing the meetings as much now. I kind of have felt recently maybe I should start going back a little, to be honest. I do feel like the Lord healed me of a lot of stuff. It was not like that. It was a process of healing. But I'm not currently doing it, but there was a lot of that type of stuff when I first got out. Yeah.
Yep, that's cool. I really like that. Um, so what was the process of your wife and you kind of getting back in the same home, if you don't mind me asking, kind of some of
Yeah,
the
it was
process?
let's see. Okay. So when I got out, so we'd already started the process of buying a new home while I was in addiction. So literally while I was in rehab, they were like moving stuff from our old house into our new house.
Wow.
And so when I got out, we didn't have a home yet. We were actually living with her parents and her brother in their apartment. So we slept like on the floor of their living room for like
Oh my
a
gosh.
month. So that might sound like crazy. Actually, I think it was probably good because it was just more family around, maybe more support. Um, I don't know exactly. That's just the way it was. And then, then we got into our new place, and so it's kind of weird how that timing was, but so it's a little probably not the best answer to your question, but the whole thing was a process, So she was pretty good about, like, she actually came and visited me in rehab and would bring my son, and she was doing the best she could, to give me a second chance. It was also difficult because when she was growing up, her father was in prison for smuggling heroin.
No way.
So she has all this other baggage of this kind of stuff. Um, and that's a whole nother story. She's from Iran, and that's another like entire podcast, so I won't even go there. Um, but anyway, so yeah, she was obviously very skeptical, didn't trust me, but was trying to give me a chance. So that was cool, and and she stuck with me through it, man. I got to give it to her. She's tough on me still, but she stuck with me. I got to give her that.
That's wild, man. That's crazy. So, uh, after you get out of rehab,
And there was no
you,
bedroom stuff for a long time.
yeah, you think? Yeah, I could imagine. Um, Take me through a little bit, your journey, because your journey with obesity, has so much to do with, your mindset today and
Yeah.
staying in shape and even the hunting stuff. How heavy did you get, and what was your process there?
Yeah,
Because
I can show
here's the
you.
other thing is
Do you want to see?
we often trade one addiction for the next.
Absolutely. Do you want to see a gross before and after picture?
Yeah, show me.
I'll find it while I'm talking. But yeah, basically, once I got out, like you said, we trade addictions. So here's how big. Oh, I got it here.
Bro, look at you.
I was 250 pounds.
Good sized
I'm
bear.
about, yeah, 250 pounds. I'm about 180, 185 now. That picture I was like 175, but yeah, it was boredom at night and just snacking and mm, no habits built in terms of fitness. Um, but I do remember one time when I was in rehab, towards the end, you kind of start to get some privileges, and they allowed us, towards the end of the program, like we could go on hikes in this little park near there. And I remember like just like I think it was like maybe 3 mile just walk. It wasn't we may have jogged a little, but I remember just like coming off of that, like I almost felt high. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And I remember the first time I got clean, I started running. And I remember I was just walking on the beach. I was all depressed and I was walking on the beach, and then something in my spirit was just like, run, just start running. I was like, all right. I just felt amazing. I had this like crazy, you know, the
Yeah.
line between science and God gets blurred when you start talking about brain chemistry and stuff to me. But there's definitely like endorphins and stuff like that. And a lot of that thing is just science's way of uh,
Yeah.
naming God processes. But
Yeah.
yeah, so go on this hike, and I felt amazing. So I think that was kind of a seed planted in my brain of like physical exercise, and is very crucial to your mindset. I mean, our bodies are made by God to cover lots of ground and to carry heavy things. And most of us, unless you put effort into doing that on a regular basis, will not do that just because of the way our lives are now.
It's so
Um,
true.
it's huge. I mean, it's like you're a caged lion. If you're not working out or anything, you're a lion in a cage. You're gonna have anxiety. You're gonna be depressed because you were made to lift heavy stuff and cover ground.
It's so
You just
true.
were. Yeah. And
So you got up to 250 pounds.
mhm.
What did what made you go, gosh, I better quit eating, or I
Yeah.
better start working out? What was that process?
The first thing was like, man, I'm embarrassed to take my shirt off in front of my own wife. Like I just look gross. I feel gross. I remember like sitting in my car and I could like feel my fat rolls, and I was like, oh, and, like I had to like pull my stomach back in the shower to even like see what was going on down there. And so like I was like, this has got to change. And I just felt, I felt weak. I felt just gross, and because not only was I fat, I also had no strength. So then I started talking to, and during this whole time, I'm also growing leaps and bounds in my faith. We got connected with a small group in my church, which was huge, big catalyst, small group. One of the guys in there is an ultra runner and CrossFitter, and became a friend of mine and started writing some programming for me. So I started dabbling. Um,
Yeah.
and then and this is where the hunting thing comes in. I'd always been a hunter, but then I discovered Western hunting, which for some of your audience who may not know is much more physically demanding than, what you might traditionally think of as hunting, like just, walking 300 yards and sitting in a tree stand. This is climbing mountains with 80-pound pack, sometimes
Yep.
100-pound pack, like multiple days. I mean, if you're not physically fit, you cannot physically do it. And so I was getting into some better, decent shape, and a friend of a friend invited me on this DIY Alaskan caribou hunt. And he kind of sold me on it, like, oh, it won't be that bad. And then and he's ex-Navy Special Warfare, so he's in like amazing shape. And I started looking at like the maps and stuff, like what we're gonna be doing. I'm like, wait, okay, we're going in there, and I got to have all my stuff, my rifle and food. Oh my gosh, like this is gonna be intense. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm going for it. So I joined a CrossFit gym. And so hunting kind of was part of the catalyst there too. I was already feeling good because I'd seen some progress, but I sort of fell into a rut, But then once I got in the community of like a CrossFit gym, some programming written for me, other people doing it with me, and then having that goal of that hunt in mind, started taking off. And then I started getting my nutrition dialed, and that's when I really saw the results. And just felt amazing. I mean, it was like, I'm just completely new person, and it's not any one thing. It's spirit, mind, and body all together.
Yeah, it's so true. And a lot of us, I've done it before too. We make the mistake of just trying to change your physical body and not doing anything in the spirit realm. Or again, like I
Yeah.
probably see this more than anything because of, I grew up in the church and been a pastor forever, is we focus so much on the spirit, and your soul and your
Mm-hmm.
body are just, you got $100,000 spirit and a 10-cent soul and body, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just trash. And guys wonder like, man, why don't I feel good about myself? Why don't I lead like I want to? Why don't I have the
Yeah.
confidence and the capabilities that I want to have? You gotta be fit in all those areas.
100%, man. And like, I think we talked about it a little bit when you were on my podcast. But for me, there, especially during this time, and maybe, it's not the same for everyone in every season, but for me, like I saw so many, I love the way God created the earth, because it seems like there's almost always, if not always, a physical, like, mirror of a spiritual principle, and vice
Right.
versa. So like I just found so many correlations between physical fitness and what I began to call spiritual fitness. And I know you can easily get off into legalism and checking off boxes and all that. I get that. But for me, in this time of my life, it was so important to attack my spiritual growth just like my physical fitness growth, and to have discipline and consistency with it. And again, that can is just what I needed in that time. And things change and evolve, but
So
the correlation was just so overwhelming for me during this.
so you're overweight and you get invited on this DIY caribou hunt. You join the CrossFit gym, you start eating better, you change some nutrition. Um, how were you? How did that hunt go? Tell us about that hunt. I'm curious.
The hunt was amazing. I mean, it was life changing.
Were
We
you in
didn't even
shape?
kill anything. What's that?
Were you in shape?
Yeah, I got in great shape. Kept up with the guy every step of the way. To the point now where like I've done hunts with guys like, I don't know if your people have listened to any hunting guys, they know Dan Staten from Elk Shape, who's like, that's like his thing, is like being the best shaped guy in the mountains, and like Ryan Lampers and Brian Call and these people. Like I can hunt with the guys who are doing the toughest stuff.
Yep.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying how far God's brought me. But that trip was amazing. It showed me. You mentioned confidence. I mean, I had this like really burning desire in my soul from God to do adventures, to do these crazy cool things, but physically and mentally I couldn't do it. And that, a dream deferred makes the heart sick, right? And like it made me sick. And then I would be depressed, and then I would use more and get worse, and then get
Yep.
more depressed. It was like a cycle. But after I finally got the Lord helped me out of that. Got on this trip, and like there were a couple of times where like we'd look at a mountain and I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like we can't do that. And my friend's like, yep, just one step at a time, we're going. I was like, all right, and did it. And then like I got back off this trip and I'm just like, man, like I'm capable of so much more. And I had so much more confidence. And that's what like launched me into doing what I'm doing now, and talking to some of these guys who are some of the best hunters and Western hunters in the world right now. And many of them are believers. And it's something that spirituality wasn't really being addressed much in the space. So that's why I started the podcast, to talk to these guys about hunting, but also about the spirit, mind, body connection, and what that whole dynamic is.
Man, I love that. My dad always says the worst kind of pain to be in is pain without a purpose. Because
very true.
Our
Yes.
vision is supposed to give pain a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're living a life with no vision, with no real purpose, you're just in pain. I mean, you just straight up pain. And
that is so true, man.
Yeah, but it's incredible if you also couple that with what Jordan Peterson says. I love Jordan Peterson. He says you have to pick your suffering, because you're going to suffer one way or another, right? You're going to suffer under obesity, addiction, not having a good marriage, or you're going to suffer under the burden, the weight, the load of getting well, right? Of getting in shape and being disciplined and learning to be a great husband, a great father. And all too often we don't actually pick our suffering. We just choose instant gratification, which really that is picking your suffering. You've decided I'm going to stay the same way forever. I mean, that is what instant gratification is, man, I want to feel good today. So I put the burden of success on tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And man, we just can't live like that.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, like if you're suffering for something you believe in, something that's worthwhile, it's like there's almost pain in that suffering. I mean, there's almost pleasure in that suffering, like in thy service, pain is pleasure. It's one of my favorite like hymn quotes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so true, because you're going to pay one way or another. And so, man, I love for men just to stop for a second and go like, is the pain that you're enduring right now in life, whatever it is, your marriage, learning to be a dad, becoming more physically fit or not, like, does your pain have purpose? Because at least if your pain has purpose, you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
You're energized, right? You're seeing progress, and you don't have to make that much progress. You just have to make 1% more progress. You just have to know, oh, I gave my best today. Right. And I also think that the inner critic kills progress probably faster than anything.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And especially if you have a personality like mine where you're kind of all in, like a lot of times with fitness, for example, I'd be like, I can't go all in. Like I can't be like just all in. So I'm not going to do it at all. Where in actuality, that's very damaging, because if you only make it to the gym once or twice a week, that's 100 or 200% better than 0 times a week.
It's so true.
So that's a big personality flaw of mine.
What I love is how the Bible says, don't despise the day of small beginnings, right? Because what do we all do? We all despise the day of a small beginning, especially in our world today, because I actually have something real to measure it against. I've got thousands and thousands of people on my Instagram feed who are, they're further along than I am, and whatever I want to be great at, lifting weights, hunting, being a father. And it's so discouraging when you start comparing yourself to who you think you should be instead of where you were and where you're at, and being a good steward. And so, man, on this journey of putting one step in front of the other, I've had to remind myself so often, like, do today really well. Just be
Mm-hmm.
faithful with today. And I've recently been reading Atomic Habits and Tiny Habits. Have you read those books before?
I've heard of them. I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I heard they're good.
Okay, yeah, phenomenal. And guys should read. I think that those are the books that anybody should read. But the most important thing in creating a habit, well, there's two really important things. The first one is to start smaller than you think.
Hmm.
So, and I'm just like you, bro. I don't do anything except for all out, and it's
Yeah.
great and it's horrible
Yeah.
because I realize like there's so many things that I would be much better at, but because I can't do it at least 85% the first time, I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And
Yeah.
so, but in creating a new habit, right, and changing the way you think and creating a new lifestyle, if you start really small, then it's not so painful that you won't do it.
Right. It's
You'll
more
actually do it.
sustainable.
Yeah, it's way more sustainable.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they say is to celebrate, right? Because we
Yeah.
are more motivated by positivity than we are by negativity,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
So if I do 2 push-ups after I pee every single day, which would be a great reminder. Like if you've read those books, you know what I'm talking about. If I do 2 push-ups after I pee every day and then I celebrate that, I'm way more likely to reach my ultimate goal, which may be 100 push-ups, you know?
Yeah.
But because I do that consistently. And so, yeah, I think it's so true, man. When we're transitioning our life, when we're going through that process of, drug addiction, new marriage, uh, building competency as a man, as a husband, as a father, we have to see ourselves correctly and put the right goals in front of us, because even too big of a goal, unrealistic goals, what I should say,
Mm-hmm.
realistic goal and unrealistic progress will crush you just as fast as, um, you know, not having any goal. Because
Yeah.
yeah, and challenging the way you see yourself.
It's just like nutrition, man. Like if you get on a diet and it's like 500 calories a day or something, okay, you might be able to do that for 4 days, but then you're going to go right back to like, and you're probably going to go higher than you were before. But if you like get just a little bit of a deficit every day and you just do it every day consistently, then you will see progress.
Bro, it's so true. Listen, I want to continue on and do part 2 of this.
For sure.
I'm out of time today. And in part 2, we're going to dive into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Your passions, what you're going after, how guys can pursue their passions, their dreams. And so, we're going to continue on there, but, man, Hunter, thanks so much for sharing and being open
Yeah.
and vulnerable and just like breaking down your life and the addiction and, how you overcame that and
Yeah,
just
man.
walking out this path faithfully. So, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been
Absolutely.
fun.
I'm looking forward to this next one.
Yeah, me too. Let me know when's good for you. I'm pretty
Awesome.
flexible.
I will. Thanks so much, bro.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the BraveCo podcast. If you like this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, leave us a great comment. And if you like this episode in particular, share it with your friends and family. That helps us to spread the word. Guys, stay brave. We'll see you next week.